We are activating your unique self-discovery one show at a time. The Orchard of Wisdom Self-Discovery podcast are at your fingertips, just waiting to inspire and invite you in discovering just how awesome you really are and how to navigate through life in joy, enrichment, personal abundance, in mind, body, spirit, heart, and soul. All the people we bring you are here to serve you on your journey of life. Do enjoy our next show. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Choose Positive Living right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my repeat guest is Monty Ritchings. We talked last time a lot about his books, one of his latest books that he had out at the time, The Ascenders. Today, we're going to be looking at Stamp Out Your Stress and Embracing the Blend. Monty is somebody who really does know about stress because he's been a truck driver for a long time, and you can imagine being on the highway and all the traffic and going through borders and everything else. So, he knows what stress can do, but how do we manage it? He says we want and need to function the best possible way in our lives every day. However, there's a little obstacle that gets in the way of our optimum quality of living. It's called our mind. When we learn the rules of the road, we travel prior to the 7th birthday, and the most folks, those rules never change. In fact, most people do not even know those rules can be changed. The rules are called beliefs, and most prominent ones are core beliefs. The opportunity of inviting people to join in through this podcast and to learn how to create beliefs and then become embedded in our memory, and how to reframe them by visualization and other simple tools. We know that beliefs can very much get in the way of everything. He's got so many books out, folks, and I encourage you to go and look at all the books right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com and also on his site, which we'll be talking about later. And stress, we've all got it. We all know that it doesn't matter how calm we are or laid back we can be, stress is going to come visiting us. How do we deal with it? And that is the important thing. Welcome back, Monty.
Thank you very much, Sarah. It's always great to come back and visit with you and all the good people in self-discovery. This is a really important piece of work that you're doing, and I hope I can share in some of the glory of that too, because people are starting to ask more and more questions about self-discovery. And my big hope for people is that they do not accept the pat answers. Mm-hmm. Because there's too much, it's really too convenient out there to just accept anything and be done with it. We're going to start off with a real little trick here. This is something that I do for myself. And I invite all of you to give this a try. Nature abhors a vacuum. Mm-hmm. That's nobody can argue with that. So when you ask yourself a question, what happens if you don't know the answer? Well, the automatic answer is I don't know.
Right.
Okay. The vacuum got answered by answering the fact that you said, I don't know. Now you go on to something else. So here's the challenge that I'm putting out to everybody. Ask yourself a question and don't let yourself answer, I don't know. And just sit with it. And it could go for a couple of weeks. I had one, I was trying to remember the name of a customs broker company that also has morphed into a trucking company. That thing took me 3 weeks to get the answer to it. But I did not ever let it accept, I don't know. Right. And so what I do is I have, because I'm over 30, so I know what a Cardex file is. So what I do is I have a little processor in my head. He's the manager of my Cardex file. And when I ask myself a question, I tell him, you have to get me the answer.
Right.
And I just leave it at that. And sometimes it takes 5 minutes. Sometimes it takes 3 weeks. But that answer always comes to me. And especially as we start getting older, the over 30 crowd, is that we need to challenge our brains.
Yes.
And this is a great way to do it. Ask yourself questions that you know the answer to, but you may not just be able to get the word to come up. I mean, don't get don't be trying to quote the Gettysburg Address or anything like this, unless you know it. But simple things, one word answers. Ask yourself, what, I don't know. I could tell you every time. What's the bank that's on the corner of Broadway and Canby in Vancouver? It's easy. On the northwest corner of it is the Royal Bank. In fact, Jim Pattison used to bank there. That's how much I know about it.
All right.
So questions like this that you know the answer to, and if it doesn't come up right away, then do that, because that's great exercise for your brain.
Right. It's like very often on a show, somebody's trying to remember something. Oh God, what was that? What was that? And I was like, just let it be, it'll come. And the thing is that the more we try and stretch the stage, we become anxious over it. And when you become anxious,
Yep.
things shut down.
Yep.
When it's like, okay, I'll let it come to me.
Yep.
That's the invitation. And,
Yep.
now your psyche, your spirit, your everything else is working to get that answer back to you. But don't get in your own way.
But it can't give you the answer as long as your system is uptight. It's got to be able to let go. I was trying to do one this morning. I was trying to remember what the name of the area that South Langley's called, and I kept coming up with Willowbrook, which is the middle of Langley, and finally came up. This is why it confuses me, because it's Brookswood. So the two Brooks got me in there, but it took me about 5 minutes, and the answer came up like that, and so on. So the thing to understand about this is, and this is one of the things that I'm going to do it in my webinar that I'm going to do on Stamp Out Stress, is understanding what causes stress. This is one of the things that I don't understand, why all these people that are so smart out there, that have all these degrees in psychology and psychiatry and stuff, can't answer. It's a very simple question. What causes stress? The people will say, well, it's when people drive too fast, or when people do stupid things, or my kids act out. No, stress is an internal process.
Right.
Always. What happens on the outside is a reflection of what happens on the inside. So what happens when you were doing my introduction? You were talking about the core beliefs and how they develop when you're a child. So what happens is, in the period prior to your 7th birthday, now that's almost 8 years, because you do learn in utero.
Yes.
You work you learn the same way that your liver does. It's done chemically through mom. Okay, so you learn your basic belief systems in that period of time, and so what happens is, the ego is the manager and the holder of all these belief systems that you've developed as a child, and so then you've got all this stuff that the ego runs on, that it's got its rule book, because it knows when the day that you were 5 years and 11 months and 16 days, somebody did something, you fell off your bike, and then you didn't get cuddled the right way, or something that caused trauma, or whatever it is. So anyway, it's learned that, because what the ego's ambition is to keep you safe. The problem is that the ego's interpretation of what keeps you safe is based on what you learned before you were 7 years old.
Right.
So what happens when you get stressed out is the situation happens, and your ego goes, oh, I recognize that situation when you were 5 years, 11 months, and 2 weeks old, and I'm reacting to it the same way I did that day.
Yeah.
But the other half of your brain is going, that's not the way we were supposed to be. So you've got this part over here learned how it is according to the ego, and this part over here is saying, but I don't agree with that. And then the two start fighting with each other.
Yeah.
And so it's the fighting between those two sections of your unconscious mind that are causing the stress.
Yes.
And so once you recognize that, and you take ownership of the fact that I'm the one that causes the stress by the automatic choices that I make, now you can do something about it.
Right. When you notice that your body is tensing up, and you notice that, you may be even getting angry or getting frustrated, when you're angry, when you're frustrated, when you're in fear, when you are in fear of the unknown, right? What happens? We
Yeah.
go into panic, everything crunches up, right? And
Yeah.
when everything crunches up, the energy cannot flow within us. The clarity cannot flow within us. And the more we crunch up, the more panic we get because the answers aren't coming.
Yeah.
And what happens is the mind then goes into, yes, but what if this happened? What if that happened? Oh, this could go this way, this could go that way. And the next thing you know, you have hysteria
Yeah.
and all rational, logical has gone out the window altogether. No, so
And
at
then
that
some.
time, that's the time to take the breath. Right? Oh, I'm getting tense. I'm getting anxious here. Take the breath. Do a few good cleansing deep breaths, which
Yeah.
aligns your chakra, allows the energy to come through you. And then you can pose that question out there. Okay, what is it I need to know in this moment?
Yeah. Now, while you're talking about the breath, this is one of the things that I've noticed with most people. And it's one of the things I wanted to talk about today. You probably know how to do this. So right now, take a deep breath. What are you moving when you take a deep breath?
Um,
Take another deep breath and watch.
well, I'm moving the energy, but I'm moving the lungs, but my boobs go up because the lungs are filling.
That's right. And so you're not breathing properly.
Right. Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, the
Yes.
diaphragm meant to be from the stomach, right? The
That's
diaphragm.
right.
Yes.
In order to breathe properly, your stomach has to
To
move.
extend. Yeah.
Yes. Because what happens is inside the lungs, there are three different sections of the lungs. And when you're only breathing so that your boobs go up and down, my boobs are really flat. When you're only breathing from your lungs, you're only clearing the top two layers of the lungs.
Right.
In order to clear the bottom of your lungs, which is where the toxins lie,
Yeah.
you have to move your abdomen.
Right.
And that's not just for deep breathing, that's for all breathing. Yes.
Yes.
How do you expect to maintain a clear head and a calm disposition if you're not getting all this stuff out of your lungs?
Right. Right. And the thing about the lungs isn't just like the oxygen of our entire existence, but
Yes.
it is, as you said, by breathing deeply right down to the very core, aligning the chakras, aligning the body, really breathing in deep, and then letting it
Yes.
go. You are
Yes.
letting out the toxins, you are letting out the doubt, you are letting out the fear. And you can then just have that clear mind. Okay, I don't know what I need to know right now, but I'm open to receive.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. The other day, I don't know what was going on. It was fairly early in the morning, but all I know is something happened, and I'm a Scorpio rabbit. What do you want? We're nerves and emotions embodied.
I'm a Libra,
And
balance all the
what's
time.
that? You're busy balancing everything.
I'm the
Well,
Libran, yes. My poor son is 3 minutes into Scorpio, so he's a Libran Scorpion. So he's always trying to balance everything.
absolutely. My rising is actually Libra, so I know what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what happened, but I went sideways and I went into fight or flight mode.
Mm-hmm.
And my breathing was really fast and shallow, and my heart was beating all over the place. And as soon as I recognized it, I said, "This is not okay. I need to stop this." So this is the procedure that I do. Are you familiar with what's called square breathing?
I don't know if you describe it, I'll probably know.
Okay, so what you do is on the count of four,
Mm-hmm.
you do take a deep breath in for four, hold for four, breathe out for four, hold out for four. And you just keep repeating that. Breathe in for four, hold in for four, breathe out for four, hold out for four. And just keep repeating that. And focus, keep your mind on the count.
Yes.
And that's the trick to it, because if you're focusing on 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you haven't got time to think about what
Yes.
it was that you were stressed out about.
Right.
And so it took me on the outside 2 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and I got myself calmed back down again. I dealt with the situation and carried on.
Right. We're reactionary creatures by nature.
Yes.
And
And that's what makes us wonderful.
but at the same time, if we paused and took a breath before we reacted, we
Yes.
wouldn't react with the anger or the accusatory or the the bashing that we do so very
Yeah.
well, we wouldn't step in straight into the negative. Now, you can hold a situation accountable or somebody accountable for
Yeah.
something, but how you do it is going to be based, will provide the results.
Yeah.
And if your reactionary is to slice and dice and tear someone down, you're not going to get many results that way. But if
Yeah.
you've taken the breath and you're centered and you can address something, I'm sorry, I disagree with that, or I don't like the way that was said or done. You're addressing the problem without attacking the person.
Yes. Yes. When I originally wrote Embracing the Blend, this would be 2006, I guess it is. Um, I channel these books.
Mm-hmm.
Virtually all the books I've written are all channeled. And as I was writing it, I was given this phrase. And at first, it was only two sentences. Then later, I was given a third one. And the two sentences said, "We are born into safety,
Mm-hmm.
and then we were trained out of it."
Yes.
And then the third sentence came along later, said, "Now it's the time to return."
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole basis of what I write about and speak about. And now I'm going to do workshops about. And I'm sure it's basically what you're working on too. So basically, what it means when we talk about being in safety is that in the design, when God designed us, he designed us to be safe. It's called true safety. And what you're talking about is when you get into an altercation and you stop and you take a breath and you choose to stay calm,
Mm-hmm.
you're staying in safety.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
it's what Eckhart Tolle talks about of being the power of now,
Mm-hmm.
staying in the now. You cannot be in the now if you're all whacked out on emotions.
No, and we've got to understand that those emotions can build on each other and build up to a hurricane that is no longer, we don't remember what started it, but we're
Yeah.
so caught up in that hurricane that it's turned to hate and bitterness and everything else. And that dis-ease that's within our whole psyche and body now can cause disease.
Yes.
So,
Absolutely.
there's always a price to pay for everything.
Yeah.
And, be careful
And
of
and
which
and
price you want.
where I believe that we are coming to in um, the development of society now and the headspace of mankind, and yes, I'm saying mankind, not humankind,
Mm-hmm.
mankind, is that we are being offered the opportunity to realize that we can be so much greater and more
Yes.
amazing than we are.
Oh, God,
And
yes.
the way that we're going to do that is by recognizing exactly what we're talking about here, is learning how to stand in the true safety, the true self of who we are, and recognize when we as human beings go and play these funny little games, but we need to take ownership for the
Yeah,
fact that we spazzed out and
right.
say, you know what, maybe I could really have done that better.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to learn how to do that. And so we're out there, you and I and thousands of others are out there saying, look, we've got a new toolkit for you. Come on and try it out.
Yeah.
You'll be way happier, have way more fun. Use your emotions for what they're for. They're for the spice of life.
Yes.
They're not to cause meltdowns.
No. I was looking at the word happiness in a conversation I had the other day, and it's like, everybody thinks that happiness, are they worthy of happiness? Can they be happy, or are they being self-indulged? And you look at a newborn, because I have an 18-month-old grandson,
Yeah.
and you look at that child and they're just pure love.
Mm-hmm.
And they feel safe in our arms or in our care. And they are just love and exploration and wonderment and adventure. And
Yeah.
there's so much to learn from a child or a puppy or anything that is young.
Yeah.
They don't know the difference between hate or fear or anything. If they are afraid of a situation, it's something that is out of obviously the control, and that is up to us and how we teach them to deal with that. Because they're
Absolutely.
going to have some situations in their lives. But do we question that they're loved? Do we question that they're happy? Do we question that they're worthy? Of course they're worthy. Of course they should be
Yeah.
happy. Of course they should be this bundle of love. At what point do we turn that page and make it something different? Education is one.
Yeah.
right? The education is you're no longer allowed to be that beautiful identity of who you are. You must conform.
Yeah.
You no longer will you be valued unless you have these grades. You'll no longer be accepted in society unless you have these amount of likes and friends. And we're the ones that are dictating the value of people through these false illusions, rather
Well,
than
and
just
and
embracing that love and keep nurturing and feeding that love.
and it's also about how children learn about life by interacting in that before 7 year old part there. How do mom and dad get along?
Yes.
Are mom and dad real with each other? Do mom and dad fight all the time? How do you get along with your siblings and so on like that? One of the chapters in Embracing the Blend, is called "Love is Not Your First Priority." And if you think about it, the child that you're talking about, that child did not have to go looking for love.
No.
That child did not have to figure out what love was. Love is innate within us. But what
How do we
happens
ignite
is,
it?
hey,
How do we ignite it for those that have been conditioned out of it? How
well,
do they
that's
go
what
back
we're
to
learning.
igniting it again?
Yeah. So what happens is, as the child progresses through the first 8 years of their life, the way that they experience their life is how they come to know love.
Yes.
So if mom and dad are a couple of drunks and they're fighting at each other all the time and all that sort of stuff, that child comes to understand that's what love is about. And they will likely, they'll either emulate that or they'll go to exactly to the opposite of that when they get older. But the thing that is absolutely most important for children to understand, for all of us to understand, is our first priority is safety.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel safe to love?
That's right. If you learn to live in true safety, what we've been talking about, we can express the love that is within us in a more pure form than if we constantly. I grew up in a very, very abusive family. I'm third child of four, and my father was provided great fodder for learning. And I spent the majority of my childhood in my bedroom because it was the only place that was reasonably safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I carry that into my adult life. I recognize it very thoroughly.
Mm-hmm.
And I got off the luckiest because I was third kid. And so my mission is, because I recognize from, I wasn't very happy with the way that I did my childhood, but I wanted to take the lessons that I learned in my childhood and help other people to. I can't help what other people go through, but I can help them
how
to
they
be
go
able
through it.
to understand that they can move out of it and look at life differently.
Right. I mean, just because your parents did it or your grandparents did it or this did it doesn't mean you have to repeat the same programming. The programmer was inefficient in its first place. It was unproductive. It was unkind. So that
There's human
programming needs
beings
to go.
involved.
Right. So that programming is something that's not serving, because you just look at what it's done for the past generations. So one has to recognize there's a pattern here that is repeating, and it's subliminal. So you're unknowing it. And you've got to really stop and kind of look, am I repeating my family? And I made a very conscious difference to raise my children very differently to the way I was raised. My mother pointed that out. You've raised your children the way you wanted to be raised, because I was in my room a lot, ignored, but I was sick. So I was kept in my room, and I'd get breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But other than that, I was pretty well on my own, that I remember. And so I understand that it was the safe space. But the patterning we think we're changing, I thought by marrying my ex-husband, by doing this and doing that and doing this, that I was going to do life differently. And I found that there were some things that I was doing exactly the same. It was the same programming, just reflecting itself in a different color. And it took a while to realize, gosh, that programming is still in me. I do have to get rid of it, because it's my nemesis that's constantly in the way of my growth.
And the thing that's really important in that process too, Sarah, is that first of all, recognizing that you don't like the programming that's going on. And secondly, it's not just getting rid of it. Again, nature abhors a vacuum. You cannot get rid of a dysfunctional belief system without replacing it with
Yes.
something else.
Yes.
You
And
have to
repetitiveness on the new function so that it overrides the old programming. Because
yeah,
that old programming has really got its claws into you. It's been there in your DNA for a long time. So
yeah.
the repetitive, positive new programming has to be repetitive and consistent in its repetition to be able to kind of Pac-Man the old programming and override it.
Yeah, yeah, and one of the key things about that to do too is to recognize how do you get your power?
Mm-hmm.
The Celestine Prophecy
Yes.
is a great book that talks about how people do their power games, and so if you're a kind of a person that has to be in control of everybody,
Yeah.
or are you kind of person that's submissive and so on, those are all power games, and it's important to recognize how one does those sort of things, and to say, you know what, I don't have to do that.
Right.
Recognize that we are all powerful just by the very fact that we exist.
Yes. Yeah. It's what we do with those energies. Like from the Celestine Prophecy, is that when you pour that positive energy on there, everything will grow in abundance, right?
Yeah.
And with the negative energy, it will shrivel up and
Yeah.
die. And it's that we are energy. Everything about us is energy. Everything that we touch, this world, this universe, what goes through is our particles, everything is energy. And it
Yeah.
can be measured. And the higher we go up in our frequency of that energy, the more we're going to live in that peace, in that love, in that purpose, and in that clarity. But
Yeah.
it is raising those energies and those frequencies up to a higher level that
And,
overrides the negative.
and a really important part of the process of that too is give yourself a break.
Yes, not gonna happen
Recognize that,
overnight.
yeah, I could have done that better, but I didn't.
Mhm.
And just let it be that there's so many people believe that they have to be perfect. Well, you know what? If you're perfect, they hang you on a cross. So
You're right.
it's really
There's another word I love, which somebody came up with a few years ago, and I use to speak to a great deal. We're all flawsome, right? And there
I
isn't
like that.
one single human being that hasn't got a flaw of some kind. But
Mm,
when we embrace that flaw and look at it as a gift of learning or a gift of character in a certain way, we become awesome, right?
yeah,
It's that
yeah,
imperfection, I'm perfection. It's we can have a perfect moment. We can have a perfect day. We can be perfect in that moment as a person for another, but that doesn't mean we're overall perfect. It's
that's right.
just a perfect moment, and we all look for those moments. Perfection.
And who the heck wants to be perfect anyway?
How boring.
Yeah,
How boring, really, seriously.
absolutely.
I mean, what do we learn from that? We
Yeah,
don't. We
yeah,
learn from our struggles, from our strife, from our challenges in life. They're
yeah,
willing to go through the process. They're willing to recognize what's holding me back. What do I need to do to move forward? But without dictation of what you think you should be,
yeah.
rather than allowing yourself to grow to who you really are.
One of the things that I've really been coming to terms with over the last while in my meditations and my writing and so on too is recognizing the we most of us tend to live in our heads,
Mm,
and what we're being asked to do now is to learn how to live in our bodies.
yes.
Now, there's a technique I want to show you how to do. Uh, are you familiar with there's a seven major chakras in
Mhm.
the body?
Yes.
Okay, are you familiar with the nine chakra system?
I have heard of it, though I don't remember it.
Okay, so the nine chakra system uses the seven of the body,
Hmm.
and our energy field is about 4 feet around us, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so there's a chakra right about here that's about 18 inches above your head. It's called the star chakra.
Hmm.
That is the main chakra that is yours, that's outside of the body. The ninth chakra is the same distance away, but it's below your feet, and
Hmm.
it's called the earth chakra. Okay, so what happens, and this is a little fun little technique that I was given. When we get caught up in our heads, what happens is the crown chakra is right here. Okay, so anybody that's not familiar with chakras and so on, the crown chakra is related to, it sits in the pituitary gland, which is the master gland of your endocrine system. It basically runs your body.
Mhm.
So where that sits, when a baby is born, the skull sits like this, and that top part is called the soft spot, and it's open. And so what happens is that's when you're born, your soul actually comes through the top of your head and enters through the pituitary gland, yeah, and fills up your body. So, and then 7 or 8 months, whatever it is later, it closes up. Your skull closes up, and you no longer have that soft spot. But the crown chakra is here. So what happens is when you get caught up in your head, the crown chakra closes. So and so it makes a neat little container here. So basically, you're now running from your crown chakra to the T2 is if you feel the back of your neck on your backbone, there's one vertebra that sticks out just
Yes.
below your neck. That's the T2. So that's where you become. You're now in monkey mind. So in order to get out of this, what you do is take your first, well, the first two, your thumb and your first finger like this, okay, and pretend you got a little piece of yarn in here. Okay, we're gonna knit no, first like this.
Oh, right.
Okay, yeah. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna knit a little hat for ourselves. So put your hand like this, right hand clockwise. Now you have to forgive me, I'm left-handed, so I have no idea where clockwise is. And just go around like this half a dozen times, okay? And then when you're done, just take the end of that little piece of yarn and go boop like this and connect it to the star chakra.
Right.
Oh, you didn't go poop.
I did a quiet poop.
Oh, it's always good to have a quiet
Yeah.
poop. So, do you feel anything happening in your body when you did that?
Yes, actually, with the head is warmth.
Okay, and did you feel anything go down into your body?
Um, I live in that state of that openness all the time anyway, because I actually am not
Okay.
very good at staying in my head. That's where
Oh,
my
you're lucky.
nemesis.
Yeah.
But that was something, for me, I was born that way and
Yeah.
then conditioned out of that way. I am dyslexic. I've only had 6 or 7 years of schooling, and I was always told how unacademic I am, and
Lucky you.
and that I would never rise up to anything. So for many many years, my self-worth was I am less than because I don't have these degrees or that piece of paper.
Yeah.
But my
Yeah.
life experience showed me that, as you talked about through channeling, going through your books, I
Yeah.
channel the wisdom that the universe gives me that
Yeah.
then comes through my soul, goes into my heart, into truth, lifts my
Yeah.
spirit into action, and my mind will know what it needs to know when it needs to know it. So I am that blank canvas. So I
Well,
don't let
you're
my
very
intellect
lucky.
get in the way
Yeah.
because I'm not at all academic. Any intellect I have is soul intellect rather than academic intellect.
That's a good way to be. I like that. And so what you're going to feel for those of you who aren't so lucky is for me when I do that, I automatically feel a kind of a cool chill go down the back of my neck, and then I find myself more consciously sitting in the chair I'm in.
Hmm.
So because it opened up the channel, so the energy is coming through the star chakra, the crown chakra, down through the body, and I sit and now I'm sitting in myself better.
Yeah.
And so when I find myself being caught up,
Hmm.
stop, take some deep breaths, do the square breath
Yes.
if you can, and then just do this. And
Mhm.
you can visualize doing that. You don't have to actually
Yeah.
physically do it. If you're sitting in the bus with a bunch of people there, if you're concerned about people looking at you and thinking you're weird for doing that, then just
Or you,
visualize doing
or
it.
you can do it and people can ask what you're doing and you can educate them.
There we go. If you're
Right.
brave enough to do that. Yes. And you can do that as often as you want until you get yourself down to the condition where you want to be.
Right.
That's
Yes.
the thing with it, and I know you're going to agree with me on this, that the whole process of self-discovery is to make it practical,
Usable. Yes.
usable.
The thing is that a lot of people, when we talk about spirituality or being intuitive, they think that it is abstaining and
Oh,
rising above not using the body. No, it is the wisdom on knowing how to use the intellect, how to use the body, how to step into a productive state of being
yes,
wisely,
yes. The,
wisely with the right knowledge to apply. It isn't there is your spirit out of body and here is your body. It is there is your beautiful spirit knowing how to use the body in a
yes.
productive, knowledgeable way.
The we as far as we know at this point, we have four levels of consciousness in our bodies. They are the physical, the mental, and the emotional are the first three, and those are the ones we're trained to use. And as soon as you mention the fourth one, spiritual, people automatically think, "Oh, I don't want to. No,
Yeah,
no. I'm sorry. I don't do religion."
it's not
Um,
religion.
no,
That's
I have a
the
picture.
man-made.
The PowerPoint that I put together for my workshop that I'm going to do. I have a picture of a little girl smelling a flower.
Hmm.
That is spiritual.
Yeah, because it's connection.
It's connection. It's connecting
Right.
you to the greater source.
Yes.
So the fourth level spiritual has always been functioning in our being as part of us. But what's happened is because we've been taught not to recognize our
Yeah.
spiritual aspects, it has had to go covert to do its work, and often ends up creating illness because of it. Because that's the only way it can get any attention.
Hmm.
So what we are being told now is we need to give equal recognition to our spiritual side. Go hug a tree,
Hmm.
smell a flower, recognize that you and I have a bond together because we are part of the universe
Yes.
and we are human beings sharing the road. Where in there did anybody say anything about going to church or
Yeah.
repenting or whatever like that?
No. No,
Nothing to do with it.
and if you really want to know the best form of healing, because I've had people say to me, "But I want to love, I want to heal, but I don't know how." And I would say, just simply pay attention.
Yes.
Pay attention to the wind rustling through the leaves, because the leaves are speaking to you. Pay attention to the water of the ocean on the shore as it washes up. Pay attention to a child's laughter, a
Yeah.
puppy dog chasing a stick. If
Yeah.
you cannot find a smile out of that, if you can't have that moment out of that, then you're not being connected.
Yeah.
Most of the time, people don't step into their spirit. They've been disconnected because they've been told they've got to live this human academic way
Yeah.
rather than the spiritual wisdom way, and they
Yeah.
don't know how to merge the two together. When you let go of assumption, of dictation, of conditioning, and you just step into nature, step into the love of life. It could be music, could be art, could you be dancing, you could be
Yeah.
singing, you could just be immersing yourself into nature. You are allowing yourself to become without those restraints and without those restrictions.
Yes, and when you move into your body, you learn to allow, and it's what part of the process you do. You learn to let the communication systems that are inherent in your body through your chakras to give you information that you were ignoring before.
Yes, yes, definitely.
And that's a large part of why people get sick is because they're not listening to what their body's telling them.
Hmm.
When you feel pain, don't go take an Advil.
Right.
Stop and ask yourself, what is the pain about? Go to that pain.
Hmm.
Sit quiet and ask the pain, what is it about?
Yeah.
And then, okay, once you've communicated with you may take an Advil or whatever like that, but find out, why is your body acting the way it is? What is it trying to tell you?
And is it something as simple as maybe going for a walk or taking those deep breaths and recentering yourself? Maybe it's just calming down for the moment so the pain is calms down. If the pain is still there, then it's an indication of something different. But don't address it with panic.
Yeah,
Address it
absolutely.
calmly. Just thinking about how many people who have been made disabled, who have become incredibly spiritual. It does not mean by being spiritual that you're never going to be sick or you'll never have any problems.
That's
But
right.
what it does mean is that you're going to be able to partner with your health problems, like I have, and you learn how to listen, how to nurture, and how to support one another. And there's
Yes.
always a reason behind something. And sometimes it's to inspire others, and sometimes it's to slow you down. I think in my case, calm my energy down, because otherwise it's too much for people. So there's always a reason for something. And if you look at something, the hand you've been dealt that's maybe led you with an illness or disability or some obstruction that you're having to live with always, don't look at it as a punishment. Don't look at it as you're less than. Don't look at it as you can't be spiritual because of it. Yes, you can, because it is indeed that spiritual energy that will help you go through it and find other ways. As somebody pointed out beautifully, differently abled.
Yeah. Yeah. And another part, I agree with what you're saying, but another aspect of that too is a lot of times in dysfunctional situations is who sold you the goods.
Yes, yes. And why are you buying?
Yeah. Why are you buying
Yeah,
this? And,
yeah.
and if anybody told you that God's punishing you, you really need to look at your perspective of what you think God is about.
Well, I mean, that is pretty evident what we're seeing in a lot of religions, especially in America right now. I actually remember having a religious person on talking about God, and I made the statement that God is love and love is God, and that is knowingly we cannot hurt anyone else. To do so would be to hurt ourselves. And he disagreed. And for him, love was about conditions, about restrictions. And I thought, not the God I know, because the God wants us to be completely open and a beautiful essence of light that
Yeah,
shines bright, that is loving and caring and expends themselves out. God isn't the punisher. He put our ego, he put our fear, and he put our dictators in place to punish us unreasonably. Um, it isn't God that does that, because that energy doesn't know how to do that.
that's right. Yeah, the problem that I found with it was that somewhere in the Bible it says something about man was created in the image of God, and what they've done is they've turned that around and created this anthropomorphic God, that God is created in the image of man. So they've got this guy sitting in a chair up in the sky there,
Right.
and with you know what? Excuse my French, but I always tell them, I say, I already had one asshole for a father. I don't need another one. Thank you very much. I like the universal God because
Yes.
if I'm being punished for something, it's probably because I'm creating the punishment.
Yes.
It's got nothing to do
Yes.
with God.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's our own
I
guilt,
did this.
right? Yeah, and one of the biggest things is we go and do something based on the information we have in the moment. And it could be a knee-jerk reaction. It could be a situation we just don't know how to get out of. We haven't taken the breath. We've all done things and all been places, right?
Yes,
But the thing is to forgive yourself. I've
yes.
been writing my memoir, and I had a conversation with my son where he kind of talked about certain scars that he has from the upbringing with his father and I, with our
Mhm.
dysfunction. And it's like, the scars that we incur or that we put on others. Um, it doesn't come from a place of us wanting to punish someone. It comes from a place of our own punishment or lack of forgiveness of self, or just a lack of knowledge of how to do something in that time. And
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
can't undo the past. I had to really look at that when I wrote that chapter, and had to look at that is that I am sorry if I let you down, but you have to know that the love was always there, but maybe the way of dealing with certain situations wasn't good enough, and that's part of life's learning curve, right?
Yeah, parents are people too, and they
Exactly.
have learning processes
Yeah.
as well. One of the things I wanted to mention too, in the line of the religious thing before we wrap up, is that one of the things that if the church thing is for you, great. I
Yes.
support you in doing that. That's where your learning is. Um, Heaven and hell are not places; they're states of being. And
Absolutely.
do,
And
do
it's
you know
here
who
right
the,
on earth. You could be in heaven or you
absolutely.
can create your own hell. Yeah.
And do you know who the devil actually is?
The voice and us and our ego inside.
It's our egos. Exactly. It's the Bible's way of talking about the ego. It's interesting though that when you look at pictures of that Christian artists have painted of the devil, do you know who they're painting? And I've never been able to figure out why they would ever think that. It's the god Pan.
Okay,
Pan,
why?
Pan, Pan is the god of nature.
So why has nature become the devil?
You have to
Because
ask the
it's honest
religionists
and
that,
true? I mean, nature is honest and true to itself. It does not lie.
and it never varies.
And it never varies. It may, we get hotter, we get colder, we get floods, we get this and that. But nature, you can see everything come to death in
Yeah,
winter. And then
yeah,
spring, everything comes back to life because that is nature. It
that's
never
right.
truly dies. When it looks and appears to be dead on the surface, just means it's rerouting and re-nurturing at the roots. We
Yeah,
just don't see that. And
yeah,
that is, I think, if we could treat ourselves seasonally and know that there's a certain time period for going in and looking at oneself, reflection, planning, of a direction that you want to go in so that you can spring into action come springtime and blossom.
absolutely. Yeah, live within the energies of nature and the whole total consciousness of the universe itself, and realize that we're all one. And it's not
Yes.
just us; it's everything.
But it's
How
also what we bring to it, right? I mean, we're all
yes,
one, and a lot of people will look at if we're all one, then I don't really, I'm a part of the Borg collective. No, what we're saying is, as I draw the analogy of, is that we're here to discover what our beautiful instrument is, what our beautiful
yes,
gift is, learn how to play it well, and then join our orchestra where
yes,
we can play individually and collectively harmoniously together.
yes. That's absolutely correct, and that's why I created the website "Powerful You, Powerful Me."
Mm-hmm.
But by helping other people see
Yes.
their power, makes me more powerful.
Makes that orchestra just create a symphony that resonates out in beautiful invitation, right? Because the more you're willing to come together in your own strength, in your own beautiful light, the more
Yeah,
you can collectively create and expand on that love, right?
yeah. So what we've just figured out is Leonard Bernstein is God.
Yes. The thing is, the poets, the artists, the singers, all the performers, they sing about this all the time, and we kind of listen to a love song, or we listen to, all you need is love, da 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 da, and we think it's just a song, but no, it isn't. It's actually a lesson. All we do
Ab-
need is love. But before
Absolutely.
you're seeking love outside, because that love outside is validation, it's not love.
Yeah,
When you become the love inside, you are the love.
yeah.
You do the love. You're not doing anything else. You're being it. And you're
And
resonating everywhere, and you will attract that love vibration to you.
and recognize that the love that you are now working in is universal love.
Yes.
It's not sexual love or
Right.
anything else. It's universal, the collective love.
Yes. I
Yeah,
have another genre called sensual expressions. And, it is about using all of our senses. And when we tap
yeah,
into all of our senses and we're in tuned in it, we are expressing from that connection of being.
absolutely.
Yes, it can be perceived as sexual. And it can even lead into sexual expression for certain people, but it is about being in tune to our senses,
Yeah.
allowing everything, the touch, the taste, the feel, the hold, the love, the wind, the rain,
Being alive.
everything, being alive, because your senses are in tune. You
Yes.
haven't shut them down out of
Yeah.
fear. You feel safe
Yeah.
in those senses, because
Yeah.
those senses are keeping you alive, keep you in a
Absolutely.
state of love, and keep you in a state of beautiful exuberance.
Absolutely perfect.
So you've got you've got many books here. So and I know that you're going to be in January putting a course together, a webinar, where
Yep.
you're going to be talking more about from one particular book, which I'm just going to go to your book cover there. That one will be more I need glasses. So that one be more embracing the blend.
Yeah,
You're going to be doing a course
it'll
there.
have the new cover on it, but it'll be titled the same. And so yeah, I expect that'll be out in January. I'm just having the cover replaced right now.
Right.
Yeah, so
And
we'll do that one.
and which you're going to be taking into more of a workshop webinar type format.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
stamp out
I'm
the
going to.
stress, incorporating that in it.
Yeah, yeah, I'm going to be doing a number of different webinars. I'm going to do some free workshops on managing stress. Just as to sort of a way of getting myself introduced into the webinar market.
Right.
And then I'll be doing some other ones on various aspects of getting to know yourself, getting to how to live in your body.
Yeah.
Yes. And so those ones, there'll be a fee for those ones. But for now, I just want to get out and get people breathing properly, drinking lots of water, and smelling roses.
Yes. And you're talking about how to live in your body. I mean, this actually was my challenge as a very spiritual being. I found it very, very difficult of living in my body and living amongst human people because I couldn't understand why so many people, inflict pain on one another.
Yeah.
Or on themselves. And so it became my conflict for a long time of, of the persecution you get as a spiritual person in the body. And so that was my journey of life. This time was for me to come back to being a human, spiritual human. And allowing that human connection of it again, because I had it right in the beginning and I lost it for a few lifetimes. And that's the connection you want to have.
That's right. So many of us that have chosen the spiritual path find it very difficult being on this planet. But
Yes.
the truth of it is that we cannot accomplish anything if we're not in our body, because the body is the connection to being on this planet.
Right, exactly. It is not only the connection to the planet, but when we bring the spirit into the human body, it is so much more far-reaching than just being the spirit, because not everybody can connect into it. Not everybody can channel it. They're needing the human essence to be the invitation, to be the inspiration,
And
to
it's
open up that channel.
And it's way more fun.
It is. It's the spirit can't eat chocolate cake, but
we can.
We can. And again, that is into the senses. You can just shove a chocolate cake in your mouth, or you can taste the chocolate and really let the senses feel it and nourish it and enjoy it. And I think it's also living in a life of, gratitude attitude, of being thankful for what you got, even the bad things that happen to you, because the universe is always giving you the skills and the knowledge through either other people or directly channeled to you in order to understand what it is you're meant to do with that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And just appreciating life around you and looking at the awe. I of course, living in the lower mainland here, we have airplanes going on over all the time. And I stop and I look up there and think about how many thousands of people had to work on the concept to get that plane to be able to do what it does.
Yes. And I look at all the people, where are you going? I hope you have a wonderful trip.
Yeah, absolutely.
It may be a great adventure for you, because we've stepped into, I'm annoyed by everything. Right? I'm angry at everything. This isn't fast enough. This isn't this. This isn't that. We've become complainers.
Yeah.
Now, if you step outside of your whining and you're complaining, and this is one of the exercises I used to do. I used to have people write down in a column everything they didn't like about their life. And then write down in another column everything they did like. Then I would say to them, which one are you feeding?
Yep.
That one maybe is shorter, but that one is longer because you're feeding it. Don't you want to change it around? And that comes into that repetitive practice that you were talking about, that reprogramming.
Yeah.
The affirmations that you need to say, that you need to do, that you need to be, to become.
Yeah.
Right? So what we feed is what's going to grow, folks. So if it's growing weeds, right, instead of roses, that's because you have fed the wrong thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Self-discovery.
Hmm. And sometimes you might discover, ooh, I don't really like who I have been or who I am at this moment. That doesn't mean you have to persecute yourself, tore and quarter, or anything else. It
That's
just
right.
means it's an invitation to become something different, become
Yeah,
something more authentic.
yeah,
Because probably what you are is what society dictated you to be. And you realize that that's false, that's a lie. So in your self-discovery as to who you are, what beautiful flawsome essence of a person you really are, and willing to take that journey, and you then become that beautiful light that you really are, you then can shine bright for others.
absolutely.
How do
That's
people
good.
get the books? How do they
There we
get the
go.
books and how do they find you?
If you go onto Amazon, you just Monty C. Ritchings, Ritchings. All my books are on there. I am expanding from there, but at this point, they're all on Amazon. And I make. You can also go through my website, powerfulme.com. There, all the links are in there. And there's a lot of other stuff. There's some really good videos on my Powerful You, Powerful Me that are good for stress management and for learning how to center yourself in your body. I put it together as a really good resource website.
And that's the start, isn't it?
That's a start.
They're learning how to breathe, how to, as you said, methodically count so that there is that circle of a rhythm
Yeah.
that is happening. And you're
Yep.
concentrating so much on that rhythm that everything else drops by the wayside as the body just calms down. And then
Yeah.
you look at what you got stressed out about and go, huh, why?
You can only focus on one thing at a time.
Yeah,
That's simple.
exactly.
It's the way the human mind works.
Yes. So focus on the something that's going to be beneficial to you and just
Absolutely.
let it go. Even if, there's a hurricane all around you. What you want to do is get to the center of the eye and drop down so that you're not a part of it anymore. And that means
Absolutely.
removing yourself from the situation. And that means concentrating on the breath, on the gratitude, on the presence. And then you will drop out of that hurricane.
Absolutely. Right on. Right on.
Great having you back here again. You have to
Thanks,
come
Sarah.
back in the new year with all your webinar things where we can share about that, what's
Okay.
happening with everyone. And he's got all the resources there, folks. Remember, he said he channeled these books. This is a combination of wisdom and knowledge that's been put together. We all are asking the word how. Okay, yeah, you say I've got to do this, I've got to do that, and all right, the breathing is the first step. But how else do I do it? Well, that's why he's written the books.
That's right.
It's showing you the how. And remember, you have to participate in your own life. You have to be integrative in your own life. People aren't doing things for you. They're showing you how you can do it for yourself. And they're there
Absolutely.
as your cheerleader, your guider, and your nurturer. So get hold of Monty, read his books, and we will let you know when his webinar and teachings are coming up in January. And just keep on keeping on because there's so much more to you than you've allowed yourself to be. Thank you, Monty.
Thanks, Sarah.
Until next
God
time,
bless.
folks. Bye for
Okay.
now.
Bye.
We hope that you enjoyed the show. Find all of our shows on selfdiscoverymedia.com under podcasts or selfdiscoverymedia/shows. And for all our current shows, go to What's New. We are supported by you, the audience. You'll see a nice big shiny blue button for one-time donations or follow us on Patreon and you will be able to support us there. We enjoy bringing you such wisdom. And the next show will be up in just a moment.